Meridian came in and we did a full brick veneer on the front of the house?
Well, probably about 3 years ago we made the decision that we wanted to do something for the remodel for the house. The exterior of the house was getting a little bit dated. We had some issues with some hail damage on the home, so we had an opportunity to redo the roof, which was needed, and we also had an opportunity to redo the siding. One of the things that we really chose to do was we wanted to change the look of the front of the house, and we really wanted to go with a brick front. So we started going through the process of, number one, looking at what we wanted to do, riding around in various neighborhoods trying to see the look that we were trying to get. And once we kind of had a basic idea as to what we were looking for, then we had to start with the process of trying to actually select a contractor. We went through a variety of folks that came out. A little frustrating with some of them, where we actually had inquired, asked them to come out, give us an estimate. The problem we ran into is maybe half of them never even showed back up again. We were fortunate enough to have a recommendation to come out to Stein Home Solutions, and Bob came out, figured out what we were trying to do, and then he actually brought in Rob from Meridian. And when the two of them came out, we sat down, we went through it. They were both very detailed in what they were offering. They explained everything they were trying to do, gave us some suggestions, and in all honesty, we had another competing company that we talked to who we were also very comfortable with. At the end of the day, we made the decision because of the fact that we felt more comfortable with the combination of Stein and Meridian, that we made the decision to go with them. The downside was that this was last fall, and Stein actually had gotten some significant work in the fall and made the decision not to be able to do the job. But instead of telling us, well, we can do it, he said, we're not going to be able to do it in your timetable, which we were very disappointed with. However, we did say, we would rather go with those folks. Would you mind waiting till could we do it in the spring? They said, yes, we could. We said, okay, we'll wait. And it was probably the best decision that we made. So when the spring came, the weather broke, we were able to start the project. We planned it out. Rob came out and outlined in detail all of the specific changes, any change in the contracts that we had, which were minimal, and then the process started. And it went as smooth as I could imagine. Not that there were no bumps in the road, but from everything from the timing to answering the questions, and which really for me was the most important, was the ability to communicate effectively back and forth. Phone calls were returned. The job came out better than we had expected, and we were extremely pleased with the whole project.
I think one of the most important things when we're doing a remodel job is managing expectations, explaining to people kind of what the time horizon is and what's all involved with the work. What could be perhaps a glitch in terms of ordering materials and getting things in on time, or actually getting that item that you want. Sometimes things tend to not be produced on your schedule. We have to wait for a few things like that. But I think Bob was prepared for that, and when we had the materials that we needed to do the job, we were here and we got started, and we worked around the weather. We had a little bit of rain this spring, as everybody kind of knows, but we were able to work through that too. And we had a real nice working relationship.
We've been around for quite a while. When I first met Rob, it was through my brother-in-law, who was an excavator, and actually Rob built my home for me. And during that process is when Rob and I got to really know each other, because being a contractor, it must have been hard building my home because I was watching everything that was going on.
Easiest thing I ever did, Bob.
But well, once we seen how everything went together, when I had met Bob and Joy on this job when they had called us, we're not a jack of all trades. We got things that we specialize in, but we know good contractors that we can work with, and not ever working with Rob on the things that he did for installing the doors, doing the entire front stonework, the patio in the back. Knowing that our communications were in line, I called Rob up and I said, we got this project, can you get involved with it? And I've never been more pleased with the way Rob and I could communicate, and more importantly, talk with Joy and Bob on making sure that what we said is actually going to happen, because it's so disappointing when you say you're going to do something and it don't get done, or you're going to be somewhere at a certain time and you show up a half hour late, we made sure that all of those bases were taken care of, knowing the concerns of Bob and Joy on past experiences that they've had with other contractors in the past.
Dealing with a contractor is the ability to communicate effectively. And I can't stress it enough. I mean, everybody wants to have quality work, and they want to have good quality products installed, and they want to have it done on time. But if you aren't communicating effectively in that process, the job becomes a burden, because you don't know where to be, you don't know when to be home, when you're supposed to be, because somebody doesn't show up. And I can't stress enough that the competitiveness of the quote is always an important factor, but the ability to communicate and do what you say you're going to do as promised is probably the most important component of dealing with a contracting project than I could have ever imagined. And that is probably the biggest piece that I'm so pleased about in dealing with this project, is that it was done on time, as requested. We were here when we were asked to be. The contractors were here, whether it was the plumber or the electrician or the carpenter or the roofing or the siding or the brick, the mason. They all worked in conjunction, and they said they were going to show, and they showed up. They did what they were asked to do, and they did a great job. And that part is just so important, and I think it needs to be stressed.
Well, thanks a lot, Bob. And I do think it's important to communicate and to answer questions. And if anything, I know on my end, I tend to ask questions several times to make sure that we're really talking about the same thing, because there are times that we're speaking almost two different languages.
Correct.
And that way we're able to realize if we're going off track or we're talking about something different, we have time to correct that and get the job done right. And so I mean, that's can't stress that enough. I enjoy talking to customers too. I think it's important part of the job. You have to be able to enjoy doing what you're doing and working with the people.
It came out on time, on budget, and when it was done when they said it was going to be done. And I told both of these gentlemen I would recommend them at any point in time, and I mean it. They did a great job, and I'm proud to be associated with them.
Starting out as a company 15 years ago, doing my own roof, and in a neighbor's roof and someone else's roof, and here we are 15 years later, and we're getting referrals, and that's the only way we do work.
And that only comes out with with some sense of trust, and and through that interview process. But I mean, we joined Angie's List and what have you to try to get a feel, just so you had something. We're not from here.
Sure.
We've been here now 10 plus years, but we're not. This isn't home for us. A home where we grew up, where I know you because I went to high school with you. Mm-hmm. Well, you were a senior. I was only a freshman. But at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, we don't know that, and it's really difficult to try to ferret that out, because there's so many roofing contractors, there's a ton of building contractors. You've got to find a way to get your message out, whether through testimonials or what have you, to get the message out so that people understand the difference between company A and company B. And then once you live up to the expectations that you laid out, I think you're home free. Then you start going with the word of mouth piece that really helps your business.
That's the best kind of business that we can get. They hear it from another consumer, which I think is the best way to market yourself.
Yeah, if Greg wouldn't have told you about us, you couldn't find us. We're not in the phone book. We don't advertise, and it's because he said, "Why don't you give Stein's a call?" And our first impression was to sit down and talk to you about who we were. And I think what happens is people make a decision on, yeah, I like that guy, or no, he's an insurance salesman, I ain't gonna do business with this guy. And I think our first visit went very well. We showed up on time.
Nothing looks like what it's going to look like. I mean, you get a couple of shingles in your hand, I got no idea what that looks like. But by the time you go to the home and then look at it, you go, okay, yeah, all right, that's about the right color. Or you go to a home that's already done, and you go, yeah, I like that look. And if you don't go through that process, then you're ending up, all of a sudden you've got this darker brick than you thought you were going to get, different color siding, different color door, and you go, oh, this isn't what I want.
We did a job once. She came home about 3 in the afternoon. I was just going to say that. And we had half the front of the house shingled. She said, "Take it off. I don't like it."
Yeah.
We ended up tearing it all off.
No, you had said that's not the color I picked. We had to show her the wrapper that, yeah, this is the color. The wrapper matches it. She says, much too light. Can't have that. So we turned everything off and picked another color.
Yeah, I've repainted houses already where the people pick out the color, and we didn't cook the color up. And this particular fellow, his name was Jim, was a big Harley guy, and he kind of picked out this kind of a creamy yellow color. Well, we did it, and it was very feminine looking on his house. And when he saw it, he just about died. So we had to make it. We had to get the color to look a little more masculine for what he wanted. So it wasn't our fault, but that can happen sometimes. Or in their mind's eye, they're getting one color, but you're working off swatches and small things. So when you can get out and look at a house and see the product on a house, that really can help.
It's critical. It really is critical to see what it's going to look like when it's up. And maybe you just do one wall or something, and you say, okay, you need to see this before we do the whole house, because we want to make sure it's the color that you want. Because you're right, you cannot tell by by the paint swatch at the store or a piece of siding or a piece of roofing. You can't tell what you're going to get, and you don't want to be disappointed. So you need to do some of that work is incumbent upon the homeowner to make sure that they spend the time to look at it after the selection.